just as a reminder, it happened last time, please silence your cell phones. That makes it a little bit easier. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, audience, for being here today. We most appreciate it. My name is Janet Hoy, and I am a volunteer with the League of Women Voters, Diablo Valley. That means I live in Contra Costa County, so I cannot vote in this race, which is important for you to know. I have no preference at all about this, although they both seem like very nice people, I must say. We have a host of partners that are helping put this on, and they are on the screen right behind our two candidates. So please make note of that. This is definitely a collaborative effort, and we really appreciate their help. You will also see that we have a whole bunch of these forums going on. We have forums all day today, and then we have 5 more next Saturday. So they are a bit back to back. And we only have half an hour for this one. So we're going to keep things moving. For those of you who don't know, the League of Women Voters is an over 100-year-old organization that fosters political engagement and education. We are strictly nonpartisan. And by that we mean we never ever, any one of those 100 years, support or oppose candidates or parties. We do, though, take positions on issues that you might realize. We're not going to be talking about that today. I'm just here as a facilitator to make sure the candidates get to hear from you and that you get to hear from the candidates. Let's see. Before we introduce the candidates, I have a few logistical items. Each of the candidates has agreed to participate under the guidelines set for this forum. The forums today are being televised by KTOP, Oakland's cable access station, and live streamed on the city's website, which is www.oaklandca.gov/OakMTG. The forums are being recorded so that they can be viewed later on the League of Women Voters of Oakland's website, as well as their YouTube channel. The recording of this event is owned by the League of Women Voters. Filming or recording these sessions by anyone other than KTOP is not permitted. I think we're presenting 8 sessions today, et cetera. This session is for the position of school board member for District 1 of the Oakland Unified School District. There are 2 candidates running for this position, and they are Rachel Latta and Benjamin Salep. Welcome. Here's what will happen. Each of the candidates will have a 1.5-minute opening statement. Then we will move into questions. I've already gotten one from an audience member, thank you, as well as other questions that I came prepared with. The candidates will have a 1.5 minutes to answer each question. Then we will move to closing statements. They will have 1 minute for closing statements. We have timekeepers here. They have these little paddles. The yellow one means 30 seconds, beware. The red one means stop talking right now. We're not subtle about those things. There will be no separate rebuttals. However, either candidate may choose to use some of your 1.5 minutes to rebut the response given by the other candidate. Okay, so let's start with our opening statements. They, again, are a 1.5 minutes, and we're going to start with Benjamin.
Hey, everyone. My name is Ben Salep. I am a candidate for District 1. I'm born and raised Oaklander, a graduate of Melrose Leadership Academy and Oakland Tech, and I'm running for school board. For me, my path towards service began as a student leader in Oakland. As a member of the Youth Commission and as the student member on the District Budget Committee, I had firsthand experience working with our school board and our policymakers on these issues that were so important to our community. And whether it was allocating funding for restorative justice, passing and co-writing the Measure QQ voting rights bill, or working in our state house on issues like student rights and vaccine equity, I realized that our community does not have the say it deserves in these issues. I'm running because I understand that Oakland thrives when we put our Oaklanders first and we ensure that our board represents our Oakland residents. I'm running to ensure that everyone here, all of you, can have that say and can help us get serious on issues like balancing the budget and ensuring that every student reads at grade level and is doing math and is prepared for college and career success. I hope to get a lot of great questions for you. Please keep me accountable, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Benjamin. Rachel.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me here. My name's Rachel Latta, and I'm running for Oakland School Board to represent District 1. I'm a Bay Area native, first-generation Filipina, and born in and raised in a union household from a long line of nurses. I'm also a nurse midwife at a community clinic, and have been, really dedicated my life and career to service. And I think of this, campaign as an extension of that. I have 3 kids, a middle schooler at West Oakland Middle, a 4th grader at Prescott Elementary, and a 4-year-old just turned who will be in the district for another 16 years. And so when I looked at the 8 years that I've been a community organizer in the district, working on issues like making the budget more equitable, raising almost $1 million to direct to schools in the flatlands that have no PTA fundraising, and making sure that all of our students have opportunities to engage in, equal athletics, restorative justice, and other programming. I felt like not having a parent and somebody who's really directly engaged in the district was a need. And so that's why I decided to step up and run on focusing on making our budget more sustainable and equitable, recruiting and retaining our teachers and staff, and making sure that there's a voice for the community and accountability. And I'm proud to be endorsed by Oakland teachers, staff, a broad coalition including principals, teachers, parents, and the Democratic Party. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. We'll now move into the question portion, and you will have 1.5 minutes to answer each question. And I should say, although there's only 2 candidates, I did do a random sort to see who would start and who would close, et cetera. So just so you know. Okay, the first question, you start, Rachel. It is a budget question. OUSD, Oakland Unified School District, of course, projects continuing large budget shortfalls. How do you prioritize different ways of managing this?
Yeah, I think that's really the fundamental question that every board member is going to have to grapple with, and one that I certainly take very seriously. Probably the place where I start from is from a orientation towards equity, that any decisions we make on our budget need to prioritize the students and communities that are furthest from opportunity, and that we're orienting our district around what works for those students, because I believe that whatever works for the students with the most needs is what's going to work for the whole district. So I think having a really critical eye on what and looking at the evidence for what programs are most effective for helping get our kids reading at grade level and recovering from the academic loss from the pandemic, whether it's mental health services, special education services. That's really what we need to focus on, and that will mean making some really hard decisions. And District 1 is a district which, relatively speaking, has more resources, and so some of that is also going to be, using my years-long partnerships with parents and staff at those schools to, I think, support, which I have done in the past in 2018, taking sometimes larger budget cuts, with respect to with respect to their budget. So I think some of that is going to be community organizing to make sure that our students with the most needs get what they need. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. Benjamin?
So to balance the budget, it's critical that we focus on the long-term health of our district. If we prioritize measures right now that are going to be serving our students without recognizing that these measures have life cycle costs and life cycle effects, we're going to go back into receivership in the way we have before. When I worked with the district to balance the budget in 2018, 2019, 2020 as a member of the budget committee, our focus was identifying the services that had the most impact on our communities and the most benefit or return on investment, because we recognized that our services and our budget had to be acknowledging the fact that deficits would be changing over time. Whether it was restorative justice services or facilities maintenance or community engagement, we looked at every single thing and we attempted to incorporate the perspectives of our student leaders, our parent leaders, and our teacher leaders in open and in wide-ranging conversations to make sure that these priorities were shared throughout the whole district. Like Rachel mentioned, these are hard choices, and District 1 has a demographic breakdown that's very different from our district. So the needs of our community in District 1 are very different from the district as a whole. So balancing how my community in District 1 and my school as Oakland Tech is different than that of all of OUSD is critical to make sure that we ensure equity for all of our students.
Thank you, Benjamin. We'll start with you on this next question, and this question has come from the audience. How can OUSD, which includes Oakland International High School, better support the newcomer immigrants in our city? And why is this not being talked about more?
That's an excellent question. Oakland OIHS is a school that is so valuable, and it absolutely does not get the support it deserves. As a student leader, as a District 1 representative of the Youth Commission, I was in OIHS usually once a month, if not more, to talk to these students because I recognized that they were not getting the support they needed on the district level. Having talked to the students, the parents, and the principal at OIHS and our newcomer families, what I was told again and again were a couple things. Firstly, our language interpretation services and the way that we support our students who are multilingual is insufficient. What we need to do is expand the way that we are communicating with our parents, acknowledging that the different languages that our parents communicate in are critical to their understanding and engagement in the school. A lot of parents struggled to participate in programs like the PTA or education programs or after-school reading because they simply couldn't understand what was being articulated. And then secondly, we have to make sure these students are the ones determining how we are doing outreach and engagement. Like I mentioned, I didn't choose how we were going to do OIHS and newcomer programs because I realized I didn't really know. So I listened to other students, and on the board, I would continue that to make sure that they decide how we provide our services to our community members.
Thank you, Benjamin. Rachel.
This question and the issue of supporting our newcomer families is something that I care deeply about. I think first and foremost, my day-to-day job is in the Canal District in San Rafael, and so my community that I work with and serve currently is a newcomer population of immigrants. And I think the thing that is really complicated in terms of serving them in our district is that so many students, our newcomer population has changed. Most of these students now are coming without family. They're often crossing the border alone. The level of support that they deserve is significantly different. And so when I, spoke with the community at OIHS, and I think informed by my, work as a healthcare provider in that community, we, one, do have to make sure that we're providing culturally appropriate education. Part of the issue is that when students come, often with Spanish as a second language, for example, then trying to then get people on grade level with English becomes really complicated, and it becomes I think something that you have to have a back and forth conversation with the students about what are their goals, because getting to grade level in English in a year is often difficult. Often these students end up dropping out for work reasons, and so we need to make sure that we're providing a more flexible alternative for them to finish their education.
Thank you, Rachel, and we'll start with you for this next question. This is a literacy question. Ensuring strong readers by third grade is a priority in Oakland Unified and is part of the district's 3-year strategic plan. Which approaches do you think are showing the most promise?
So in terms of literacy and getting to strong readers, we have seen some incredible progress with the current program that we're using, which is called SIPS. And the biggest thing that we've seen progress with in SIPS is around small group instruction. So making sure that teachers and staff have time to differentiate readers so that they can focus on targeted instruction. The second thing is around, kind of phonics. And I think a lot of people have, there's been a lot of talk around the science of reading. And actually, I would say Oakland, although there is a lot in the press about our reading, we've done deep investments in getting our young readers and all the way up to middle school, up to grade level. Though now we're going to end that program, and we're going to move to a new program for literacy. And currently the district is testing 2 different new literacy curricula, and whoever's on the board is going to have to really have a critical eye on what program we're going to invest in, and to make sure that that program is showing improvements in getting our students who are furthest from grade level up the fastest, because that's the only way that we're going to get students reading on grade level and able to be A to G ready and can, apply for a 4-year college or go on to career. And so I've been, again, I think as a parent and somebody whose kid really struggled to read, I have, and I think being in a school that has seen really big growth, something that I'll be focused on. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Benjamin?
SIPS is a great program, and we're doing a lot on the district level to improve our literacy scores. What's not being mentioned is that a number of these achievements and these growth are spread out very unevenly amongst our schools. Some programs, such as my former school, Melrose Leadership, are achieving record increases in literacy, getting students up to grade level, while others are still lagging behind. And that is a result of, it's not a result of SIPS or the district programs, it's because community investment and engagement is wildly inequitable across these programs. What we need to do alongside, like Rachel mentioned, our small group instruction and our teacher support is working with our community and our outside partners to provide the resources that we're not receiving right now. Melrose thrived because they had parents engaged in reading conversations to support teachers and continue that work of literacy after the school hours ended. And that should be expanded across every district. We should be working with our outside leaders to ensure these are conversations that are being engaged in equitably, and we should be accountable by appointing someone essentially as a chief literacy officer in the OUSD cabinet who can individually target and ensure that every school is reaching literacy goals.
Great. Thank you, Benjamin. And this next question goes to you. How would you work with all stakeholders on the school closures and mergers issue? Can be quite challenging.
School closures are a really touchy subject. As a student who walked to my school and benefited from community school programs, I understand how important it is to have our services. It's a hard question, but I feel confident about engaging this work because I've been doing the work for 6 or 7 years now. As a member of the Youth Commission and as a member of the LCAP, I went out in the community and worked alongside. I convened groups with our school board, with our city council, with our state leaders, and with our community leaders to have these conversations about education. That was invaluable in identifying the ways in which students and parents and teachers were feeling served and unserved by school closure conversations. What it has to be partnered with is data-driven approaches. We can understand what students and parents are saying, and what they told us is that we're not recognizing the ways in which closures affect the transportation of students. Students in District 1, they can probably drive to schools around. So students from Kaiser can probably get down to Sankofa if they need to. Students in East Oakland whose parents work multiple jobs or who don't have as good transit options are going to have a lot more challenge. And that's the thing that we learned from talking to these students. Implementing what our community perspectives are being offered, making sure that that's shared publicly, and then using it to inform the data that we use to determine what schools are closed, consolidated, and engaged in is how we can make this an equitable process that serves all students.
Thank you, Benjamin. Rachel.
So school closures and mergers is touchy is maybe an understatement. And as a parent, volunteer, and organizer, I have been a parent and organizer with my kids in schools that have been targets of closure. And I think that one of the things that I have seen in this process is that sometimes school closures and mergers are kind of assumed to be the best solution. The assumption is, well, obviously with declining enrollment, we need to close schools. And what we miss in that process is that we have, not just in Oakland, but all across our country, we have a history of disinvesting and shutting down programs in neighborhoods that are predominantly Black, predominantly lower income. And the school closures process in Oakland has been no different than that process. And no matter what we do as a district, we need to have, and part of why I decided to run, we need to have people who are dedicated to making sure that whatever path we take as a district, that we're not going to continue to disinvest in these schools and these communities, right? We would never, I would hope, I think when we talked about brownouts for fire departments, when we talked about shutting down police stations and libraries, we wouldn't have done it in the flatlands, and we should not do that when we talk about closing schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. This next question will start with you. This came from the audience. Are there equity issues between Oakland's charter and district-run schools? Is combining charter and district-run schools the answer?
I do think there are deep equity issues between our charter schools and our district schools. And I think the first place that it comes up is around services for students with special needs and special education. One of the reasons why I do believe that one public system is the best system for our students and for our community is that in a bigger system, we're able to provide robust special education services. I think a lot of people, and myself, when you experience your child having, let's say, an IEP where they need to be pulled out for speech, they need, extra time on a test, that, I think as a parent is very heartbreaking, but, I think with a supportive staff, you can support those students. What gets more complicated in our district is that when you have students who need to be in a special day class all day, when they need specialized medical services, where they actually need a nurse with them during the day, when they actually need, feeding tubes and breathing tubes maintained, that becomes quite difficult to do in a standalone charter school. And so a lot of our special education students have said for a long time that they don't truly have school choice in the way that other families do because they must choose where that program is placed, and that's basically always in a district program. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Benjamin.
So it is absolutely true that our special education students they feel forced to attend district schools. Partially it's because the way the charter enrollment occurs, and district schools can be sort of the last resort enrollment option. And that does affect the way that the inequity between district and charter schools in terms of serving some student groups. That being said, it is unfair and inequitable to treat charter schools like a villain here, because our charter schools, many of which serve our Black and brown students and our low-income students, have a right to be treated and respected and engaged with in this way. What we can't do is oppose school closures across the board and then support the closure of charter schools, because that is essentially telling our students and our parents they are worth less than our parents and our students in district schools. We should get serious on special education and on new student services and English language learners, but we can't do that by vilifying charter schools just because they're not in the district. I strongly support consolidation. I think Roses in Concrete was a great example of how we could bring a charter school back into the district, and I think those conversations should continue in all of our schools. But talking to OUSD and charter parents and teachers, what I've been told is we have to make our schools competitive so as charter parents and charter leaders feel empowered and engaged in merging and having those conversations again.
Thank you, Benjamin. I'm looking at the clock. This may be our final question, and the final question starts with you, Benjamin. OUSD teachers have been on strike 3 times in the last 5 years. What ideas do you have to minimize this disruption?
It's hard to minimize the disruption of strikes because they are by nature a disruptive tactic. It is a way for the union to emphasize to our leaders something is not working. And the strength of a strike is to make it difficult for the district to continue with business as usual. The best way to prevent strikes and prevent disruption is simply to negotiate in good faith and pay our teachers a living wage, because these occur because we're not offering our teachers enough. I had a teacher who worked at Starbucks to make ends meet. That's inexcusable. And he went on strike because he wasn't receiving what he deserved from the district. So to prevent that strike, what we should do is pay that teacher and pay all of our other teachers what they deserve in salary and benefits and supports and services so that they feel engaged with our district, and then negotiate in good faith with open community engagement so that we as a district are proactively preventing these kind of discordant events.
Thank you, Benjamin. Rachel.
Yes, I couldn't agree with Ben more. I think if we pay our teachers what they deserve, they will not go on strike. And that's, I would say, one of the biggest cornerstones of what I believe. I think that you will, I think the other question maybe underneath there is we have had so many strikes, and why can't we pay our teachers enough? I think a lot of people believe, and rightly so, that our teachers did receive a pay increase 2 years ago. But it has not kept up with neighboring districts. We once again are the lowest paid district in the Bay, and and we're talking significant. A new teacher often will take a $25,000 pay cut to work in Oakland. That's not acceptable. And so I think knowing that, you have to come in with, and that's again why recruiting and retaining teachers and staff is my number 2 priority, because our district is only as stable as we can keep our classrooms and as we can have teachers and staff appropriately at every school. So I will make sure that paying teachers and paying them well and what they deserve is one of my top priorities. Thanks.
Okay, moderator's prerogative here. I think we have a yes and no question, so I'm going to stick that one in. I think we have time, and we'll start with you, Rachel. Would you support moving OUSD administration out of the 1000 Broadway location? And maybe this is more than yes or no. What would you do with the old abandoned administration building? How about a 1-minute response?
Well, the 1000 Broadway one is easy. They're out. We're not there anymore. And I supported that. In terms of the old administration building, I think there's having a community-driven process around that. There's decades of plans for the Second Ave property, and I think I personally would just say that I support a community process where we're using that space, we're keeping it within the district, but we're providing housing and services for workforce and transitional age youth, either who are unstably housed or exiting out of the foster program. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. And Benjamin.
Yes, absolutely. The thing to mention is that they've been asking to do that, and they've been trying to move out for quite a while, and it's been impeded by bureaucracy and by a number of onerous processes. The district's asked to move to a new site. I led those conversations when I was in the budget committee. We talked about getting funding for that program to build a dedicated administration building in West Oakland. It didn't go anywhere, partially because the board stymied those efforts and partially because it's just hard to build stuff in Oakland. My background is in engineering and building. I helped build Glenview Elementary. I helped as an architecture assistant on a site that built housing on a former school site. These are hard processes, but we as a district are land rich, and we should use our land to build housing for teachers and build school site services and community engagement. And that should be a conversation that occurs during and alongside talks about how we're moving our administration to a new site.
Great. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you both for the answers to the questions. Very much appreciated. We'll move now into closing statements. You each will have 1-minute closing statement. We'll start with Rachel.
I just want to, first off, thank the League of Women Voters and all of your partners, everybody who's here, and I assume the thousands of people online watching this for the time. I think that, these local elections are so critically important. I really feel like this is like the work of democracy right here. So I just want to appreciate that and everybody for putting in the time, and also just say that I really never thought I would run for anything or be up at a dais, but that ultimately I believe in Oakland and I believe in our district, and it's got a lot of challenges, but I do really feel dedicated to making it work, and not just for my own kids, but for every single kid in the district, and making sure that we kind of expand on what we're doing and make it better for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rachel. Benjamin.
Again, thank you everyone for coming. Your vote is so important. And I really appreciate you all for coming out here, asking us questions, keeping us accountable. Like Rachel, I never thought I'd run for office. I'm a kid from Oakland. I'm a kid from the Flats. But I'm running because it's time for new leadership. Students and parents have told us that the district is not serving us, and we need new leaders who understand these issues and who are front and center getting in the community. And that's why I'm running, because this measure of accountability is one of the ways that you can keep us accountable. I hope it continues into the school year, into these terms. I hope that our community stays engaged and keeps the board accountable, and that we can collectively and collaboratively work forward on the issues that are so important to our students.
Great. Thank you, Benjamin. How about a round of applause for our candidates and, for me, to our audience? Okay, this forum will be rebroadcast on KTOP as well as Channel 10 on Xfinity Comcast or Channel 99 on AT&T Uverse. We'll also be posted on the League of Women Voters of Oakland's website, which is lwvoakland.org/decide, and on our YouTube channel. You all know, Benjamin just said, election is November the 5th. We always say it's an important election. This one is very, very, very important to many of us, not only because of this race, but many other races that are going to be on our ballot. If you are a registered voter, you will receive a ballot in the mail. They will start being sent October 7th. If you are not already registered, you have until the 21st to register. If you don't get around to doing it by then, you can vote provisionally on November 5th at a polling place. We encourage you to do so and to encourage any family and friends who may not be registered yet, because it's not on everybody's radar. We sort of live and breathe this stuff, but not everybody does. So make sure and get it on the radar of your friends and family who may need to register and absolutely to vote. Your one-stop voting place is vote411.org. That is the League of Women Voters, nonpartisan organization, been around for over 100 years. Information site on everything related to the election. Get your ballot, understand all the races, get information on the candidates in their own words, not modified at all by us, and information on the 10 statewide ballot initiatives and the 3 local initiatives. Very, very, very important. And in fact, your local league here is having sessions on the pros and cons of the 10 statewide ballot initiatives at many, many locations around here, as we are doing across the state. So, happy voting. Thank you for your attention. Very much appreciated. Take good care.